See Dwayne's Rockhard Johnson pound and pulverize the DCEU just to take it in a new erection in Black Adam. Directed by Jean-Colette Serra, who did House of Wax. There's like 2 people that are watching these videos that will get that. Inside jokes are fun. He also did Orphan, which was great. Orphan First Kill, less so, but he had nothing to do with Orphan First Kill. He also did Unknown and Nonstop. You know, 2 of the Taken clones that Liam Neeson decided to pump out shortly after Taken was a raging goddamn success. A particular set of skills have been applied to so many movies that are carbon copy, cookie cutter, to the point that soon the world will be in flames, we'll be on Mars, that will be irradiated, and somehow more Taken clones will be happening. Nevertheless, he also did The Shallows and Jungle Cruise, OEO, that had Rock the Dwayne Johnson in it. This was written by 3 different people. Only really one writer had anything of note. That was Adam Skitskill. He did Maid of Honor, Due Date, Rampage, which also had Rock the Dwayne Johnson in it, and Scoob. Scoob is not very good, but it was also made for kids. It also didn't really do a great job with the intellectual property. Nevertheless, there were 2 other writers that did stuff like a TV show called Informer, Licky Boom Boom Down, boy, that's a deep cut, and The Manchurian Ventriloquist. So this stars Rock the Dwayne Johnson as the Dwayne as Teth/Black Adam. He was made a demigod 5,000 years ago in the kingdom of Kanduk, and it's an Egyptian kingdom where everybody has captions, subtitles, fortunately, otherwise we wouldn't be able to understand what the hell they're saying. And after a series of events that led to a king being crowned and Black Adam, or Teth Adam rather, colliding with him, he has been in prison for 5,000 years, or nearly 5,000 years. Perhaps he had a little clicker, from a track meet there. Or maybe he just had a little sundial and was somehow able to see that despite the fact he was entombed. And then he's freed and decides to go on a rampage. Wait, no, that's a different movie. There's no giant gorilla or any other creatures in there. And Rampage was a strange flick. Black Adam, if you are looking for in-depth analysis as far as the lore of Black Adam and other DCEU universe characters. That was really repetitive since the U in universe, that's what it means. What the hell are you doing here? Because I know of Batman, Superman, a few others, and in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I'm aware of enough of the people, but I'm not as ingrained, and involved as far as superhero movies go. I appreciate them. I appreciate the efforts that are made for them to make billions and billions and billions and billions and billions and ad nauseum billions of dollars, at least on the Marvel side. Now, there have been some successful ones in the DCEU, like Batman. And Batman, let's be perfectly honest, the last couple Superman movies haven't really meant all that much, and then you had Justice League, which didn't work out all that well, like the Zack Snyder cut. I think about 80% of that was just adding slow-mo because Zack Snyder, I think the S in there actually stood for slow-mo, and they decided to change it to Snyder because it was more catchy. Rock the Dwayne Johnson is on point here. He is pretty much just exactly what you expect him to be. He is the Dwayne that you can expect because this was a labor of love. This is something that he wanted to do all the way back in 2007 when people were fantasy casting superhero movies, and there was other ideas thrown around as far as like superhero movies succeeding. This is even before Iron Man had really started to peak the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and after Superman Returns it, well, let's be perfectly honest, kind of gone tits up because it wasn't bad. I think Brandon Routh got a bit of a bad rap, but nevertheless, Rock had been trying to get this made for a while. There were possibilities of Black Adam being in other movies, but that got nixed when directors and other stuff got changed around. So, yeah, after 5,000 years, he's in the modern age, still in the same area, Kanduk, and there is an evil presence that he must either decide, do I want to keep killing people? Do I want to help? What do I want to do? This movie had a world of hype behind it. I mean, a lot. Like, to the point where, even though, again, I'm not that into superhero movies, I was like, okay, fine, let me see. Do people want me to watch this? They do. Okay, I'll watch it. And I can give the opinion that is a resounding... probably going to get some hate for that, but, I like Rock the Dwayne Johnson. I've liked him since he was The Rock, since he was Rocky Maivia. When he was... took the name of his dad and his grandfather, and they booed him out of the building in Madison Square Garden. I've been a fan of The Rock since his wrestling days. The People's Eyebrow, doing the Smooth People's Elbow on the British Bulldog on SmackDown in 1999. And his other forays into movies. I mean, let's be honest, him being a computer-generated Scorpion in The Mummy Returns wasn't all that great, but he got to do Scorpion King, and sure, not every single one of his movies have been successful. Once he got to the Fast and Furious franchise, that really kicked him off. He had some successes before, but things are starting to dry up a little bit. And that's actually what helped kick it off. And now he's just been making money upon, piles of money, piles of money, piles of money. And so he wanted to do this. I will say that there are some positives to this. They did have to tone down the violence, just have a PG-13 rating. There is a bit of violence that actually gets by the censors, and I think they're able to expand and play with the PG-13 to R rating a little bit more, and that was fine. And there are some elements where there's a little bit of fun. Rock's humor does shine through. There are some funny moments. Now let's go for the negatives. The negatives pretty much are about everything else. It's not even a bad movie. I want to say that right now. But for all the hype and all this stuff, I will say that I think the critics were mostly right. Like, there are elements of a decent movie here, and obviously this is supposed to be the first part of a franchise. But even as much as I knocked the first Mortal Kombat, or I thought the first Sonic the Hedgehog was fine, and the sequels eventually launched it into, launched the, series a little bit higher. And there have been examples of this, happening with superhero movies. I mean, Iron Man, various others have gone on to do better, even though Iron Man 1, while not great, was pretty fun overall. That being said, if you're not familiar with Black or Death Adam, however you want to call him, and the Justice Society, which is the stupidest goddamn name since the Super Friends for a group of superheroes, and it's like they just... And I know that these characters have lore, but it's like they just drew them out on a freaking napkin and said, okay, that's a great idea. And again, it is written by 3 different people, and by Christ can you tell. Because there are some ideas that just get thrown in there, and there are a few things that get fleshed out, and then there are other things that just get thrown in and into a melting pot. Human Centipede together, they throw a bunch of other stuff in, and they say, okay, here's a bucket of slop that we basically given you that we blended together. It ends up not working out as well as they think. Now, sure, you could turn your brain off and enjoy it somewhat, but there have been better superhero movies even in the past few years. I would argue that you could still watch the first Superman or the second Superman, the Richard Donner cut preferably. You could watch Blade, you could watch others, and you could enjoy them more. Jungle Cruise, since from the same director, was at least fun, a little bit stretched out, okay, a lot stretched out. But this, despite the fact it's about just clocking over 2 hours, it rushes itself, but it also is badly paced, which is odd. In the fights, the action sequences don't mean anything. The action sequences don't mean shit, like they just feel like hollow noise. Even the setup. This reminds me, actually, if they took the concept of Rock the Dwayne Johnson's Hercules movie and turned it into a superhero movie. In fact, that's the most apt comparison I can come up with. There is Hawkman, Carter Hall, aka Carter Hall, that's his alias, Aldous Hodge, who has been good in other stuff. There's Pierce Brosnan, who plays Dr. Fate. He has the gold helmet on and everything, and he does the disappearing spooky stuff and whatever. And then there's Atom Smasher, Noah Centineo. They sent Neo. God, Neo could have probably saved it, except he couldn't save the 4th Matrix movie. Nothing could have saved that. Atom Smasher is easily one of the worst superheroes I've seen. I mean, it's kind of a cool power, but they try to make him almost Deadpool-like with the humor, but his PG-13 is toned down, and also, no offense against Noah, he doesn't have very good writing. There is Sarah Shahe, who is beautiful. God, she's been beautiful for a number of years. I mean, I remember her being on some USA show that I'm trying to remember the name of. I remember watching it strictly just for her, but I can't recall the name. But she, absolutely gorgeous. Goddamn gorgeous. And there's Cyclone, played by Quintessa Swindell, which just almost sounds like she should be some kind of poet on stage. I mean, that's not even knocking her. Quintessa, that is an interesting name. She plays Cyclone. She controls wind. If you couldn't guess that, I really can't help you. And there are a few other guest stars I will talk about in the spoiler section, because I don't want to ruin that stuff. I will just simply say that, before I get to the spoilers, is while the pace is at times fine and there's a little bit of breezy fun, It feels hollow. It doesn't really feel like it comes together. And even though they try to do something nice towards the end, even the end feels a little bit rushed. Also, the villain, one of the worst, and I don't even mean necessarily the actor's fault. He's right there on par with the guy that played Jafar in the live-action Aladdin. Atrocious. Terrible writing. Really, really stupid. And the actor basically seems like he's sleepwalking. Half the actors seem like they're sleepwalking through this stuff. Pierce Brosnan, who I've liked since GoldenEye, and he is really good. Can't sing for shit, and I know something about not being able to sing for shit. Check out Mamma Mia. He seems to be sleepwalking through his stuff. And characters will just make decisions. They'll just do this stuff, and then things will just get turned around, and we'll do this, and we just have to assume that we know why these things are happening. I'm not saying you need to heap exposition on us. There are things explained, but if you are not a diehard fan of Black Adam and the lore, you're probably not going to have a goddamn clue what's going on. Now, you could enjoy the ride, but to have to research something just to enjoy it in theaters, if it's not a historical piece, I think is asking a little bit much, especially now that movies, people are more used to watching movies at home. You have to entice them to get into theaters. Now, this will probably make quite a bit of money. I hope it does, because that advertising campaign has been heavy, and Rock the Dwayne Johnson doesn't come cheap. I mean, he does come sometimes because he has a couple kids. Nevertheless, enough about Rock the Dwayne Johnson. This just ends up being kind of a mess. It doesn't come together, and even though they try to tease something at the end, spoiler, that's going to be, that's for the spoiler section, don't worry, not going to tell you right here. It just doesn't work. Ultimately, it doesn't come together. I did not have as much fun with this. I wanted to like it more than I did, and overall, I think it just kind of ends up being a bit of a mess. And the writing is ass. The dialogue is not very good. They try to throw a few curveballs with the plot that you could see coming from a mile away, even if you've never read up on Black Adam's or Teth Adams. That's really hard to say. His lore, you can guess them coming from a mile away. So there you go. That's really all I got to say about that. Quite a bit of explanation, but nevertheless, if you want to see Black Adam, it's in theaters. Probably going to be packed, but check it out. You might have a fun experience. Who knows? But I'm going to get into spoilers. So 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. This is spoiler country. Okay. So, again, the Justice Society is absolute goddamn ass. It turns out that Teth Adam actually was the father of the son. We thought it was the son, but the son got bestowed the powers, and he took down the king. He took down the previous king, and that was, hang on, I had to write this crap down here. He basically, he was a king. He was a king with a name I can't goddamn pronounce there. That's just what I'll say. And he had this crown made out of this eternium, this, alloy, and it was this cursed crown. And it said, life is the path to death, and then you turn it upside down. It's like, death is the path to life. What the hell is going on here? He kills the king, and that's what ends up happening. But then it turns out that actually the son originally had the powers. He was bestowed them by a bunch of magicians, including Jaimin Hansu. That's one of the spoilers there. Really, really terrible waste of Jaimin Hansu, who's been great. I'm pretty certain I'm mispronouncing his name, but he was great in Amistad, has been great since. He went from Amistad to Deep Rising within a year. That's incredible. Deep Rising is also fun. They bestow the powers upon him. He kind of unleashes them, and he decides to bestow the powers upon his dad because he thinks his dad can be a protector. He can't be the person to control those powers. And then the dad sees that people get killed there, and all that stuff happens, and that's why he has the powers and his son doesn't. He's not the son. No, he's the father, the son, and the holy Black Adam. So yeah, a little bit, and also with the plot, there's this guy, Hamel, I think that's how you say it. He's the worst villain. Worst. Terrible. He was part of Sarah Shahi's group to get this crown, and then it turns out that he actually was in on the whole goddamn thing. And since we see that, you would think other people would figure it out, but they don't figure it out. People get shot. People get broken up. They have this comedy thing going between Hawkman and Black Adam where they're doing all this. They're fighting, no, you need to save these guys. No, I just need to beat them up. We need to negotiate. We need to do this. Pierce Brosnan, meanwhile, is on Quaaludes. And there's a kid, Amon. The actor's fine, but he has this thing where he's obsessed with comic books, and they are, and he's just over the moon. Oh my God, the Protector has come back! The Protector has come back! And there's a statue that was erected in Black Adam's honor, the Champion, but it actually was his son, and that's why he doesn't feel that he's worthy of the powers. Also, all he has to do is say Shazam, and then the powers are bestowed on him. But he says Shazam again, and they're gone. That's pretty much it. Then, this Hamel guy, the villain, gets, he basically gets the crown. You should see him in a crown, but then he ends up getting burned because everybody just unleashes their powers and everything, and Black Adam just unleashes his lightning, burns the crown to him, but he is in the underworld. Then he gets resurrected using the reverse Shazam powers. Now, he's the god. He basically is a rendition. If you took the genie that Jafar became and you took the Tim Curry legend devil character in Human Centipede and together and made it worse, you would actually come up with this guy. And he's fight, he's doing all this. They're having these fights. It's not really all that good. Atom Smasher is a terrible goddamn character. Have I mentioned that? And they have this fight, and he's got to get to this throne. If he gets to this throne, then he can unleash his power, and he'll rule. He'll rule Kahndaq. And meanwhile, by the way, the Justice Society managed to negotiate with Black Adam to give up his powers. They would put him in a secret, Antarctic facility underground where water's coming down. Did you not think of sealing this? Should we not have maybe thought of putting this? I don't know what the hell was going on there. I don't get it. It's probably a deep cut for comic book fans. But he's put there, and now since he can't say the words, he's submerged, he's got the mask on. And also Dr. Faye Pierce Brosnan has the ability to clone himself and be in different time periods and everything. He has a helmet that comes from an alien world and all this stuff because, of course, why wouldn't he? He ends up trying to sacrifice himself to take down the king. He's cloned himself doing all this, but then he puts himself towards Black Adam and says, you must come back. You must come back. Free yourself. I'll free you. There you go. He gets out. And mind you, he's only a man at this point. Yes, he's a strong man. They also had to diminish his muscly physique for this. But he swam out and then floated up and then suddenly says Shazam. And he, after being revived, he comes back and then attacks the king. Manages to harness his power enough where he's doing this. And then he fries the guy's horns and splits him in two. And now he's the king, or he's the champion. Also, this lady that wanted to get Hawkman and various other people, not Lava Girl, wait, that's Shark Boy, wanted to get him, that's a deep cut for wrestling fans. She wanted to get the Justice Society together to take down Black Adam, because they stayed up on him. Also, there's there's a descendant dynamic with Sarah playing the mother for Amon, but also in the flashback playing the mother playing the wife, I believe, of Rock the Dwayne Johnson. So anyway, he cannot step outside of Kahndaq, or otherwise he will be in violation. It will be a violation of Kahndaq. Yeah, I'm ashamed of that one. So there you go. And he doesn't have to, it's like, don't worry, you can send them all if you want. He can send them all. And then we go to credits. And then we have that scene right there. And she's talking and everything, talking about that. You could send them all. Okay, as you wish. Somebody shows up in a cape, and it's Superman. Superman versus Black Adam, probably in the next movie. Superman says, we need to talk. There you go, guys. There you go. There really isn't a whole lot to Black Adam. It's not a bad movie. It's just, it doesn't have any heart to it. It doesn't. There's no stakes. There's no nothing. I didn't even get into every single bit of goddamn bullshit that there was. C. Gets a C. That's about the kindest I can be. It's okay. Agree, disagree, what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Rickland. I'll see you soon.